When I say shut up, Chris, it means your damn keyboard too. We're live, Chris. We are live.
Holy, okay. I want to talk. John Fraughton. What do you mean you don't have a PS5 yet? Just all you need to do is put a little bit of time in. Just get online there. There's no excuses.
Well,
None.
they cost money too.
Okay, well, okay, financially, we're not talking about that. It's about finding one that I've even seen them in the Walmarts then. Hey guys, how's it going?
What's going on, guys? First off, before Chris gets to his usual spiel, let us please know how the audio levels are. I'm the guy in charge of the audio, and apparently I'm like deaf, so I'm doing my best over here. So let us know if I'm quiet, or Chris is quiet, or Chris is too loud, or if you want Chris just muted, because I get that too.
Yeah, that goes both ways. Whoa. What are you doing? What are you doing? Come on, we're supposed to be professionals here. Anyways, guys, welcome to episode. I was going to say we're supposed to be professionals, and here I am going, episode 62 to the Virtual Boys podcast, live and in color. Thanks for joining us, guys. Hit the like button, please. Hit the like button. We always forget to talk about that in the beginning. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. I'm sure you have if you're watching the show. You guys are the best and the brightest and the most talented of the subscribers that we have.
We love you. We love you. We love you.
See, this is why we mute you. But and guys, again, we don't normally throw this out in the beginning. We should. Each and every episode, Thursday, it is live on YouTube, but it is up that night or the next day, depending on how quickly Ryan gets his button gear on all the major podcast outlets. So it is audio format on all of those. So if you want to listen to us on your way to work or while you work, I listen to podcasts while I work. So I would listen to us if I didn't have to listen to Ryan.
I have to listen to us because I have to quality control us. So
I do that too. Guys, we got a little bit of a smorgasbord of an episode today. We want to cover a bunch of topics. We don't normally do the whole in the news, but there's just a lot of topics that we want to talk about. And so, but they're not really full episodes. So we're gonna bundle them up and we're gonna shoot them all at you. So feel free to comment. We love comments. We read comments. We may not comment on every comment, but we love comments and we do read them and we do try to integrate that into our chat. So,
and I'm not saying like just throw it out there, but if you do have something that we do want a topic for us to cover on maybe this episode or even a future episode, throw it in chat. We are paying attention to chat, and if this episode does run like short, we only have a few topics that we want to cover. So if there's some time at the end and you've brought up like, man, I would love for you to talk about like, Maskmaker coming to Quest 2 on December 15th. I would happily talk about Maskmaker coming to Quest 2 December 15th. That kind of stuff. So
really?
Oh, yeah, right?
That's news to me.
Vertigo Games is publishing it. Yeah, Maskmaker, a game me and you both really, really liked. A game I guess we have coined as clone-like in the genre of clone-likes is coming to the Quest 2, and to me that's a pretty big deal. Maskmaker was one of my favorite games of last year for the PSVR and PC VR headsets, so I'm pretty stoked Quest 2 guys are getting it.
I see VR Demon talking about TF2 talk. What is TF2? Am I just like missing something here?
I mean, TF has to be Team Fortress, right? That's the only TF I know as far as gaming.
Did Team Fortress 2 get announced for VR?
I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe we need VR Demon as our news guy.
I don't know. Email us. We need help. Well, okay. First things first. I saw someone talking in there about Among Us VR. Ryan played Among Us VR. He has also reviewed it, so make sure you check out his review. And Ryan, I don't know, you enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed it more than I expected to. As I've said many, 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 many times, I'm not the most social guy when it comes to VR games or games in general. So with Among Us being a social game with up to 10 people, I mean, the premise is simple. It's up to 10 people in a ship. 1 or 2 people are the imposters who are basically out to kill people, and everyone else is as the crew who has to complete tasks and try to figure out who the imposters are. If they vote out the imposters, they win. If the imposters kill enough people or sabotage the ship and the crew doesn't fix it in time, they win. So it's all based entirely upon being social. And I haven't had a chance to dive in today, which is I'm actually really curious about because I played pre-release. So I played with other content creators, even the developer team. So I played with adults, basically. So it was a thoroughly enjoyable experience as everyone took the game relatively seriously, considering it is, a relatively silly game. And this will segue into our first topic. But that being said, I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed the game. Trying to figure out who these murderers were, people just lying to each other. It brought me right back to Werewolves Within. And if you haven't played that, you should. I think the servers. I don't know if the servers are still up for that. Actually, they might be down. Regardless, Werewolves Within was a really cool game where you had to basically you all sat around a campfire, your virtual avatars. You just sat there, and you had to basically figure out who was a werewolf amongst I think the six of you. So it's very similar in regards to like lying and deceiving each other and pretending to be something you're not and trying to figure out who it is. And man, when the imposters, you get guys who are good at being imposters, who know how to lie, know how to sabotage properly. It gets absolutely crazy and it's super fun. I would love to have a game of like 10 people that I know online, just to so I know there's no like shenanigans and tomfoolery. But it's not perfect. It's only one map, so it's the same map over and over and over again.
Really? I
Um,
didn't know that. I haven't played it right at all.
yeah, well, that's how the base game was for the longest time, and then the Inner Sloth announced Among Us 2, and then they scrapped Among Us 2 and basically put all the stuff they were working on Among Us 2 into Among Us 1. So now I think Among Us 1 has 3 maps. They introduced character classes for all the crewmates. Now you can be an engineer or something else. I haven't played the flat game since they put that stuff in there, so I can't say exactly.
Have they talked
Um,
at all about bringing that over? Because I know you'd said in your review that this is very much like kind of the base game.
the best I got from developers is that they can't talk about DLC other than the first DLC pack that is happening, but it sounds like they are working on stuff. So I don't know what that means if as far as if it's just more cosmetics or if they are planning on bringing more of the flat to VR. Honestly, assuming this is a success,
I
which
was
I
gonna
have,
say success is gonna be
I
gonna be
I can't see them not bringing the flat content over and basically making the VR version a VR version of of Among Us like fully and completely. But as of right now, it does feel like it's dipping its toe in the water in regards to what's available now on flat versus VR. But that being said, they pretty much nailed exactly what Among Us was all about in regards to the original release, and it's fantastic fun. It really is a really good time. It's like what $9 US, I think, is the price, so it's pretty cheap. It's only online. If you're a single player gamer, do not buy this game. You have to play online. But even as a guy who doesn't play online a ton unless I have to for a review, I can't wait to jump back in and actually play with all you regular folk. Just being a dick, I don't know.
I see Dark Angel and Justin talking about, um, playing Among Us, like, seriously or just having fun with it, and I feel like that's it's like the Star Trek bridge crew conversation, and I feel like I feel like in between the 2 of them, you need to find a group that wants to play it the way you wanna play it. Because I get what Justin's saying, and I'm probably leaning more towards Justin, like, I'm like, "'Kay, people, we're here to play the game. Let's play it properly. Stop goofing around." Like, I mean, that's kinda like this is why I don't play social games. Like, I remember jumping into Werewolves Within. I enjoyed it in the beginning, but I remember jumping in, like, later in its lifespan, like, still on PSVR, but it was, like, probably 6 months, a year or so later. And the people that were playing it were Friday, Saturday night people, and they were all fucked, right? Like, they were totally wasted on their drug of choice, and very different experience. It's like, "You lie! You're lying! You cunt!" Like, like, it was vile, it was very adult, and I don't know if Werewolves Within, especially around that time of VR, like, the early days of PSVR, it didn't have the kids base, and this is where
No.
we're kinda segueing into this, is that, like, this is the conversation that I see coming. I've seen it in comments all over videos on YouTube, and I've even seen it making into people's reviews, including yours, about kids, right? And that kind of comes down to, again, what I was saying is like Among Us. It's like I feel like if you're with the group, especially if they're all friends in your private party, and you guys are really just social is above gaming priority wise, then you're gonna have fun doing that. And like it's funny because I know that Justin and Dark Angel are, play in the same social circles of VR. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But I feel like this is the problem that people are going to run into with VR is it's like, how do you gatekeep age groups? Now, like Meta came out and has like put an age limit on VR, which it's like it's trying
It's
to
so awesome on paper. It's so awesome on paper that I'm just like, yeah, like like harkening back to say to the original days of PSVR, like when I would play every game I played online on PSVR was just adults, and it was so refreshing coming from flat gaming, Call of Duties, that kind of thing, and like I like that's a fond memory of mine. Is like when PSVR, like it was like we happy few adults who like bought into this crazy expensive little experiment in VR were just like so happy to be in this little like virtual world, and it was just like everyone was like the same fucking age group even, and I actually miss those days because you pick the wrong game and all you hear is like and you're just like, man, like
dude.
mute.
There is I did a video years ago now. It's funny enough, it's like actually probably one of my best performing videos, and it was just like a collaboration, uh a combination of a bunch of like fails in VR and people. It was called Freakouts and Fails. I did 2 volumes of it, and I believe it was the first volume. And there's a clip of Star Trek Bridge Crew that I found of a bunch of guys like in the very beginning stages. I don't know if you remember it, Ryan. They're sitting around like in like it looks like a conference room table, and the ship's kind of floating in, and it's where you like
Oh yeah.
set up the game. And there's like a table of like 3 guys, and a kid jumps into the lobby and he's like, "Hey guys!" He's like, "I'm gonna be the captain." It's all of a sudden you see, nope, bloop, beep. Guy's like, It's like nobody left in the lobby. It's just this kid sitting there, and it's like I feel like that's the response, right? Um, it'll be interesting. I feel like the influx of kids into VR. First of all, I feel like trying to put an age limit on VR is like trying to age cap kids watching porn on a computer or the phone. It ultimately is completely pointless. Kids are going to be, especially if kids are on their parents' devices. Like that's, if they're logged in under
Yeah.
their adults, it just doesn't matter. And so it's the same thing with like the whole porn thing. Ultimately, it comes down to parents parenting their kids. And I really don't think a lot of parents are going to be like, oh, I don't want my kid playing this game. I could see parents getting involved in a more violent game, possibly. Like that's where the parental side of a lot of parents would kick in and be like, "Ooh, I got to protect my kid." But when they see something like Rec Room or Among Us, I very unlikely that parents are going to necessarily step in and tell their kid, "Oh, you shouldn't be playing that game." You know,
This is the example of too little too late, honestly. I think if Quest would have came out of the gate, or Meta or Facebook, whatever the hell they're called, would have came out of the gate saying, look, this is a 13 plus device, and not just like as a little warning when you turn your headset on, but a full on, like when when we link it to your Facebook account, you have to be a like 13 and over year old, or this headset will not work. It'd be a different story. But the fact they've
eye
done this.
tracking, eye tracking. It's like, sorry, we can tell by the eye tracking your balls have not dropped.
Right. But the fact
Fail.
but the fact they're only dropping this now, what, 2.5, 3 years after the Quest 1 releases, it's honestly, it just feels like they're covering their ass more than anything else. It really just feels like a cover your ass move. So if some kid gets molested in VR chat, they can be like, whoa, well, I mean, we banned their account. They shouldn't be, they're on their parents' account. That's not Meta's fault. Because I I love the idea of honestly not having kids in VR. I put my kid in VR. I put my kid in VR since she was like 5. And that's me letting her in VR for like 5 or 10 minutes at a time to play one thing, and then, all right, that's enough for you, move on. Because there's the whole argument of like, it's bad for their brains, it wrecks their eyes, and VR is too new to really kind of like say yeah or nay whether that does anything. I personally don't think it does a lot. That being said, I wouldn't let my kid play VR for like 10 hours straight. I mean, anyways, um but the idea of now, like, for the last 3 years, if a parents bought their 8-year-old this headset or 10-year-old this headset, and now all of a sudden their headset's bricked because Meta decides all of a sudden to actually make their policy like that enforceable, like I'd be like, okay, well, I'd be suing Meta. I'd be like, give me a full refund then. Like, you can't just like brick my headset because I bought it for my child and then just I'm okay with that. So it's just messy. It's not gonna change anything, unfortunately. All the kids who are playing in Rec Room will still play in Rec Room. All the kids that are gonna annoy me in Among Us after I get off this podcast tonight are still gonna annoy me in Among Us tonight. But I still like the idea of just making it a little more challenging because kids suck. And the fact that Among Us 2 or Among Us in VR actually costs money is also a pretty good, like, fuck you, kids. Fuck you. Because you don't get to play this because it's not free.
You'll
Eat
get it for
shit.
free. It'll keep some kids out, and
Some.
this will be interesting to see what the fallout is. Like I said, I think you're gonna have 2 camps. You're gonna have the kids, and you're gonna have the adults that wanna fuck around with their adult friends. Uh, and I'm not necessarily saying that that means they're just gonna, like, screw around and not play the game, but there's definitely gonna be that divide, and, it'll be interesting to see how private lobbies or just somehow just lobbies, just, like, maybe, like I didn't I don't remember if you addressed this in your review, maybe you couldn't because of, like, the way that you played it and reviewed it. Salvador, you're a gem. Uh,
We love you, Salvador.
sorry, I totally lost my train of thought there with Salvador's love post. Um, what was I gonna say there? It's gone. Psh, totally gone. Damn it! It
Way
was
to go,
important. It was
Salvador.
it was important too. It had a
Why don't
lot of
you can go back on the PVR on the YouTube while I talk if you're like dying to like
no,
say your point.
no, it's gone. Doesn't matter.
All right, good. The point being that I mean, you're basically talking about like that like the kids and like money being a factor in regards to stopping kids from being in VR. Um, I do think I think it's a good line. I think unlike like PSVR has the same thing. I think PSVR was 11 and under. I can't remember the age. Every headset was different as far as their age thing, but I like the fact this is being enforced. Just because I don't think kids belong in VR just yet. And we're talking about kids 12, 12 and under. I mean, no offense, but like 13, like I understand the need for like,
Oh, that's what
for
it was.
games to sell, you kind of want to get as much of the market as possible. And, kids are playing video games. I get that. But I think for VR, I just think I think kids leave a bigger stain on VR than then it's good, especially when you factor in the fact that it's still Wild West in regards to once again VR chat, where that article came out like what a year ago now, where it was like I pretended to be like a 13-year-old girl and like everyone was trying to molest me, and this is like VR chat and it's like crazy, rapey, awful, god awful, like bullshit, and I don't buy that for 1 second. I mean, I think you're baiting. You can. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying you're making your own fucking news at that point. Um, so it's just easier, honestly, I guess, to just not have that be an issue for now, I guess. So I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of ranting. It sounds like you got your point back, so I'll let you take over your point. No?
Yeah, well, I mean, Brandon McLean is you have to hit the mute button, and while you were talking there, Ryan, I was just thinking about the fact that the problem is that works in games like, say, for example, a game that has a lot of age variance in it, Call of Duty, in flat, right?
Yeah.
You've got a lot of kids and a lot of adults, and you don't have to talk. You don't have to listen to somebody. It doesn't matter. And in games like that, where it's just like you just don't want to hear people shit talking, fine. Mute is great. But the problem is when it comes to games like Among Us, where communication is the game. That's where it becomes more of an issue. You can't just mute someone. Especially, I mean, you can mute them, I guess, for a while, but eventually you have to deal with it. And my question to you was in Among Us, can you search lobbies? Can you choose what to join, or do you just quick join, or do you just have a room number and you join that?
I did mention this in the review, Chris, thanks to your wonderful notes. You can quick
Like,
join, obviously. You can host a match, so then you become obviously just the guy waiting for people to come, which is kind of the same as quick join, only now you're the host. Or you can actually do a private join. I can't remember what it's called, where you give it a room code and can give that room code to friends.
because my
So
point is that I see a way around this a little bit would be either giving people the option, like a button to click that puts a tag in there, or people can like put right in there like their room name or whatever, and then just adult. Not the
That would be
same that's
nice.
that might not necessarily, stop, like, there's, like, shitty kids that are gonna be like, "Nah, I'm gonna jump in there and irritate them."
No,
And
I'll be the whiny man here. I mean, in regards to the comment, just mute them. That's fine. I can just mute them. But the problem is, if you're hopping from game to game, or there's constant squeakers moving in and out of games, it just becomes annoying to mute them. Especially in a game like Among Us, where, like, as much as annoying as they may be, they may have the information that you need to vote out the imposter, or they may be the imposter. So when you're muting them, you're actually it hurts the game. So in some games, sure, whatever, it doesn't matter. But in games like Among Us, it actually would affect the game negatively because I mean, as dumb as those kids are, they actually do take Among Us seriously. I've played the flat game where kids are they're better at me, they're better at the game than I am. But so it's just like, and I shouldn't, in an ideal world, I shouldn't have to sit there and just go through my lobbies and just mute half the players because they annoy me. And yeah, I don't know. It's just
here's my thing.
thank
I
you.
was gonna say yeah, because you were spinning your wheels there. I feel like the kid issue in VR became way more of an issue, like, as guys who got started on a PSVR and had years on the PSVR before you jumped PC, and then later I jumped PC, and then obviously with Quest, and the Quest is, I think, what brought all the kids in, because the Quest was cheap.
Yeah.
And it was standalone. So it was just like, here, your parents bought you a Quest and you could go, plus the Quest is portable, so kids could fuck off and go play where their parents weren't supervising them. So you have even more issues with kids just being little shits because they can go be on their own and get away from parental supervision, right? I think it'll be interesting with the PSVR 2. We're back into a similar zone where I'm not saying that, like, tons of kids don't have consoles, but it's different between having that console and then now you got to get the headset cost. I mean, this is what we talked about in the last episode about the cost, the barrier to entry. There will be a lot less kids, and then so what you're left with is the age group that, like, I guess just we like to play with, which is kind of that, like, late 20s and older group. It's like the more adult group. The group that, like, is like, shit, I gotta go to work, guys. I gotta get off, or my kids are coming home. That group. And
It's funny because I I was used to that. I was used to kids being in games. I was used to, like, like I said, pre VR, I played Battlefield, I played Call of Duty, I played online games. And I just got used to kids honestly, it comes like I'm going back to 2016. Like, coming back to that little slice of heaven that was PSVR's launch, and there was just no kids on there. It's like I tasted like the nectar of the gods. I know what that tastes like, and I want that back, Chris. I want it back.
I think that that is definitely what we're gonna get at launch again. I mean, the PSVR was the early adopter crowd, and your early adopter crowd is not usually kids trying to get their parents to give them $600 to buy something. It's 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 got people with jobs and, like, and indispensable income, or really fucked up priorities like us. um, it's like, food. We don't need food. I need to
Yeah.
get that PSVR 2. I'm just saying, I feel like the PSVR 2 might balance that out a little bit, but we're also living in a world with cross-platform. Where I have more of a problem with the kids in gaming, not just VR, is that unique type of game. I'll give an example, like Firewall Zero Hour for as a VR reference. And some days I'd even, in Pop One to a certain degree as well, where you can mute people and you can just not talk, but it really hurts the playing experience.
Yeah.
Like Firewall Zero Hour, it's like, yeah, you can jump in a game and mute everyone and don't talk, but you suck. Like, you suck to play with, because especially in a team game, if you're not a group talking, like, you're gonna get your ass kicked. Like, that's not how the game's played, and this is where it becomes a bit of a problem, because it's like, you you don't want to foster that environment of just, oh, mute them all. Uh,
Yeah.
And that's what happens with kids in VR. I mean, we're getting away a little bit from, like, whether we think Meta's plan to ban kids in VR, because where it all comes full circle is people complaining about, say, games that were really focused on kids. And Among Us arguably might fit in that category, really. It is I think very kid focused. I don't really care about the game. I have no interest in it. I hate people. I don't play social, not usually, unless the gameplay is incredibly unless team play is really part of the gameplay
Yeah.
experience.
No, I get it.
It's the rec rooms and to a lesser extent, but a similar VR chat. It
Yeah.
especially rec room. Like I feel like that goes right at rec room.
I
Like
mean,
I
they're the ones that kind of broke this whole news story. They're basically saying, yeah, Meta's forcing us to like change age restrictions on in our game, and that's kind of what broke this whole thing. Um, and like it's I don't play Rec Room unless I have to because it like just if you want to go into Rec Room and just cruise Rec Room, God, what a recipe for like it's an absolute nightmare because it is literally just all kids. And one, it's a free app, so that's gonna invite kids regardless. And two, it's also it has all those tons of games and everything else. So it's a social VR game that I avoid because of children.
anyways,
We're moving on.
I don't want kids in VR, and I don't
Right,
wanna talk
I
about Among Us
agree.
anymore. I
Screw
wanna
that.
talk
Screw
about
kids.
I wanna talk about more VR they can't afford. Uh, so if for those of you who haven't been paying attention, and it kinda came out of nowhere, Pimax, for those of you who are not super, in the know of the VR industry, like Pimax has like been responsible for like the super ultra wide headsets, the ones that like look like you were like a hammerhead shark when you
They're
wore
like
it.
VR's like really ugly like stepchild who's like really actually kind of good at shit, but like I don't know, they're kind of like we make fun of HTC in regards to just how they keep like releasing products that no one gives a fuck about. Pimax releases products people care about. People just question whether Pimax can actually deliver on said products.
Not just that, Pimax is also up there with like with Varo, where it's kind of like we know what you make is cool. We just can't afford to pay attention too much
It's true too.
because you make things that we want and we can't have without getting divorced or skipping mortgage payments for the
This
average
product is
person.
crazy. This Portal
It
product is fucking crazy.
so I'll tell you what it is. Like you don't know, but I don't know how much you do know, but I'm going to tell everybody if I can even wrap my head around this because it's like it's fucking crazy.
So I
Like
said
it's like too good to be true. I don't know. Is our little video playing there?
our video is playing. Of course it is, Chris.
Okay. So it's basically everything in one. And
Literally everything in one.
really like it is Pimax is like as far as I know was a VR company. And all of a sudden they've come out of nowhere and this is it's super ambitious and it's essentially a Switch. I've heard people talk about it being
Well,
kind
no,
of like
it's a Steam Deck more than a Switch.
kinda, but it's
It
got
plays
more
Steam. It plays Steam games.
it can play Steam
Oh
games,
my
but
god. Okay, continue.
okay, but here's the question because they've been vague about what the all the guts are on it, right? Like they know that it's, they're saying that it's pretty much the same chipset that the Quest Pro has. Quest, yeah. But it's very confusing. Like it was an hour-long presentation about what this thing was, and essentially what it is, it looks like a Switch. It even has the controllers that come off on the side. So it's a standalone uh screen display gameplay device that I would imagine, yes, is probably going to be, like you said, playing at least some Steam games, but it's not as I don't think it's as powerful as a Steam Deck. I mean, we don't know that yet, but the idea is that it can play games portably, and that's what you're buying. That's what it's like. It's called a Portal, and that's what you're buying. It's a 5.5-inch screen with the two controllers and I think it's an OLED screen, but
Yes. Yep.
it's a QLED and it's got
Yeah.
like an LED lit screen in behind. I don't know. I'm not super enough techy enough with the displays to know that they found a way to make it cheaper than just a straight up OLED screen. But regardless, it's like was it like it's like it's going into Kickstarter here soon, and they've got a bunch of different prices, but it's around the 250 US point, and then it's going to come out for when it actually releases it. Not a ridiculous like price point. It's like it's hard to just spit out a price because there's so many versions that they're talking about coming out.
Yeah.
But again, essentially, you're buying this basics like, it looks like a Switch, right? And then in addition to that, you can then buy the accessories. Now, the accessory that we all are gonna care about is there's a name for it, but it's a sleeve. It almost looks like it's like people have referred to it being like a Gear VR, which I think is kind of unfair because the device itself, like the portal, the actual like
Yeah,
core
it's more like a Switch VR.
yeah, but it has cameras. It has all the cameras on it.
Yeah.
So without accessories, it does augmented reality stuff. Okay, and then you can slide it into this VR headset sleeve that looks like it's also got a battery pack in the back, which is nice. So it looks like it's kind of trying to get the weight distribution there. I'm not sure if there's additional processing in the back there, but you slide that in. Then the two, like let's call it the switch controls, the nunchucks, they slide off the side, and then they slide into like hooped controllers that look like or look like Quest controllers, basically. And then it becomes a standalone VR headset, and it's got like a 4K display, 144 hertz possible refresh rate. Like, I'm like, "What? Really?" And it's like, it just seems like too good to and the price point on this thing, again, is like $300.
It's
Now, I think that's just for the core device. Now,
yeah.
it's like in addition to the VR sleeve, which is what we all care about, the accessories just keep on coming because there's like an upgraded, uh oh, there's a term they had for it again. There's so many things flying around here. There's like an additional, it's like a larger display that you can click the smaller display, and it gives you like an 8-inch display. So it's a larger screened handheld gaming device. Now, this is just for flat gaming, right?
So I have the price point here for you. Hopefully the audio is coming through. I see the video's a bit glitchy, but the price point here. So the 128 gig model is $300. The
Yeah, I
256
see
gig
that.
model is
$400.
$400. The QLED model is $549, and then if you want the VR on top of that price, it's $449 for the base VR headset or $599 for the QLED VR headset. So there's like so many fucking options for this thing. It's ridiculous. Um, but I'll be damned if this isn't piquing interest like crazy because like it's kind of like what we've always wanted from not always wanted, but it's a promise on like so many different things in regards to what this can actually do. Like it's a Switch with VR compatibility or a Steam Deck with VR compatibility. However, you play that. So it's if you want to get it early now just for the portability of it, you can with options for VR down the road. Like it's crazy. It's crazy, Chris.
I mean, and then in addition to that, like again, the accessories, it's like the accessory king. You can it's got, let's see if I can remember. So it's got a dock that you can get so that it will go to your TV just like the Switch dock. It also has a Wi-Fi like transmitter, so you can have like a completely independent Wi-Fi like link to like transmit it to another device. And then in addition, they've got a little PC for PC gaming basically that again, have you seen that?
Yeah.
Like it's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Um and the little PC, it's like it's got like a terabyte hard drive and what does it see here? Um an AMD 6800U processor, 32 gigs of RAM, a 1 terabyte SSD, and it's designed so that you can stream content uh, straight off, say, hard drive instead of just like cloud gaming or something like that. Um, it also has Wi-Fi 6. It's I don't know. It seems amazing.
Oh, it seems too good to be true. Is I mean
I
that's
mean, the price point seems too good to be true. Like
right.
I would have expected to be at least a grand.
Yeah. Well, which I mean, when you factor in the VR headset, I mean, like I said, with the prices I gave you, I mean, American prices. If you want to get the premium portal with the premium headset, it's $1,150 American.
Yeah.
If you want to
Yeah.
go for the base shit, you want the absolute bare minimum, I guess we're looking at 750 American.
So here's the cool thing. I like the idea. I really like the idea of it's like this base entry. Like you want a cheap alternative to say a Steam Deck or at least an alternative to the Switch. I mean, again, we don't really know how it's going to play and what it's going to play. They're just not going there yet, but it sounds like it's going to be say somewhere in between at least the Steam Deck and a Switch. So it's like you want that good portable gaming. Here's an option for you. Hopefully it's like hopefully it's like running on Android, so it's a little more open source. It's running on a Snapdragon processor, the XR2. Um, I like the idea that you can just keep buying toys. Depending on how you want to do it. It's like if you want to attach your TV, here, buy a toy. You want to play VR, here's a toy. I mean, it could be a good gateway drug if they get people in on the handheld and they're like, you want to play VR? Does VR? Like, but then
Mhm.
it's like, okay, but what kind of like, but then what does that look like? Again, it's the thing you and I always talk about. Okay, you want to play in the standalone VR market? Okay, great. What does your store look like? What
Yeah.
games do you have access to? And it's like, are you a standalone headset or are you really just going to be a headset that connects to a PC? Your PC? Does it do Steam? Probably. You know what I mean? Like my concern is that as cool as it sounds, I'm concerned that they're getting into a jack of all trade, master of none. And hopefully because if it's only mediocre at everything, then it's just kind of like someone said there, it's almost like it's just a proof of concept almost. I just Pimax in my world has never been a company that I could see pulling this off. It's
Yeah.
ballsy.
Yeah. No,
This is
it
something
is
I would
ballsy.
expect from Valve.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with that. I mean, like I said, Pimax for me has always been like not only unattainable in regards to price and whatnot, but also like undesirable because what they promise, the Pimax, whatever the heck the headset's called, like it looks ridiculous. Promises what 100 and it's 160 or 210. It's some ridiculous field of view. It's an insane field of view.
The
But the
Pimax, yeah.
headset, yeah, but the headset looks like mental. It looks so stupid that like I would actually like as a guy who doesn't care, I would actually worry about what I look like in front of people while I showed them the headset. Like
Dude,
it's
you look
not,
like you look like the bad guy from Silent Hill. I
yeah,
can't remember
right.
Pyramid Head.
Pyramid head, your Pimax head.
But even that's not, I mean, you got to read the fine print though, because even the Pimax, I've never tried one, but it
Never
has this
mind.
crazy wide field of view, but it loses height. It like when you talk about like resolution per eye and all the ratios that they get for that, it doesn't have the vertical field of view, and depending on like what game it was, some people said it felt like it could feel almost a little stretched on the sides, and you needed a beefy ass PC. I mean, you have to think about that when you can see, when your display is this much.
Mhm.
You can't just run that on
Yeah,
your 1070.
You're rendering when you're rendering double what everyone else is rendering. Yeah, for sure, that makes perfect sense.
So I've said this before. Personally, where I want to see VR grow the most is field of view. I feel like
I thought you'd say porn. So you're right, totally.
that's a given. Um, but this would work for that too. I'm just saying that for me, being the VR enthusiast and being sometimes a little bit jaded with VR, I feel like the big jump for me would be getting to the point where I can't see any, like I'm not getting any like goggle
Yeah,
effect.
100%.
And I've never experienced that. I'm always kind of aware I'm in VR, always a little bit, as immersive as the game is. And so it's the thing I'm always looking at headsets for. I'm excited that the PSVR 2 is, pushing that up a little bit above where the Quest is and where the PSVR 1 was, but I kind of wish it was more around the 140. But it is what it is. There's probably again, it's probably a balancing act between how much do you want to render.
Oh, for sure, 100%. Like I said, this is this isn't out now. This is like I said, it's going into Kickstarter, and we'll see where this actually plays out because I know Pimax has had a dubious relationship in regards to what they've delivered upon. And I mean, I know
Did
Pimax
they?
has their well, I know that they have their fans. I'm not saying the product doesn't deliver. I'm just saying like how they delivered it. As far as the delays on products and everything else, and everything else, they don't have the best reputation, not the worst reputation by any stretch. But I think many people like me and you are just kind of like wait and see because as cool as this is, this does sound too good to be true, and especially too good to be true for the price. And when this thing comes out, all of a sudden it can't play Steam games, or it doesn't run VR the best, or whatever. Then things change, right? But for now, this is arguably one of the coolest announcements I've ever seen. It's just a matter if they actually deliver upon their promises.
Yep. I mean, we'll see. I mean, Space Denizen says the VR journey's been wild, and that is one of the things that you and I have talked about. I love VR is the Wild West, man. Like, it's just you just don't know. Like, we don't even know what games we're gonna get in December. Like, it could be where there could be a bomb dropped. It really is still. It's still crazy. It's getting crazier because, like, with the PSVR, I mean, and PC, you never knew what you were gonna get, but now, I mean, really, essentially, we're looking at holiday 2023. We're looking at Quest, PlayStation, Apple, Pimax, and maybe a new index, like all going after VR. And so VR looks like it's doing really well. And then there's the meta layoffs.
Oh, is that where we're going? All right, I will not load this image then.
We don't need any more dick pics. Um, but that's it isn't I mean, I segue on that on purpose though, because I feel like depending on what news you're watching, they want to shit on VR. They want to they want to package the meta layoffs as a failure of VR. And the more you read about that, it's kind of a bunch of bullshit. I mean,
Yeah,
has Meta gone maybe a little hard on VR? I don't know. I mean, maybe we're not the right people to be unbiased about that, to be to be kind of um what's the word I'm looking for? I guess honest about that, just because I personally think that Meta's like carrying the industry right now with
hmm
Sony
hmm
with
hmm
Sony being in kind of the R&D stage and PC just not knowing what to do right now around that. Meta's been they're the ones spending the money, and I guess I don't actually when it comes to let me say when it comes to the VR side of the Meta layoffs, or say Meta overspending on the metaverse, some of that's dumb spending on their part. But on the other side, I kind of feel like some of it's other companies' faults. It's like, like you're letting them do it on their own. Like like you're I don't blame them necessarily, but as much as Meta gets shit on, we need to be cheerleading the money that how much unbelievable amount of money they have spent, and Zuckerberg has just been like VR, woo.
yeah.
No, but
No,
what
and
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, VR Woo, we've heard plenty of reports where Meta's a publicly traded company, so they have to answer to stockholders, and we've heard plenty of accounts where stockholders are like, "We need you, Mark Zuckerberg, to stop doing this," and Mark's like, "Yeah, no, fuck you." And I think this layoff thing is just kind of a proof that maybe Mark specifically just kind of like dove in too deep. Which we've seen as far as like Horizons and the whole Avatar thing and all the. I mean, Meta is a glutton for bad PR, and it's their fault. I truly believe that Meta's all their bad PR is entirely the fact that they brought up the metaverse and the fact they relabeled themselves Meta. You're just asking for it because the metaverse is so far away. The metaverse is barely proof of concept at this point. That to sit there and say like you're like spearheading this metaverse is ridiculous. They so jumped the gun on that term and adopting that term for themselves that they invited this disaster. Because to sit there and say like we're making Ready Player One when it's just it's so unfeasible at this point. It's ridiculous. And then to show not only that, but then to show like Horizons as the embarrassing social app that it is, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. They can sit there and fix their avatars all they want, and they did, and the avatars are substantially better, but substantially better than garbage is just better than garbage. And so inviting there's just so much negativity that yeah, I'm like and so much investment into this thing. I just looked it up. Meta employs 76,000 employees. Um so 11,000 of those jobs are now gone. There's still 65,000 people working for Meta.
Okay, so here's the core problem though that I don't feel like a lot of news is covering, and that is that sorry, I'm just trying to get my shit sorted here. Is that when a lot of people hear Meta now, with the rebrand, right? They think VR. Because when Meta rebranded, that was the big push, right? Meta Quest,
Yeah.
Metaverse, right? But to Meta, as a company, as like an umbrella organization with Facebook underneath that, Meta's everything they're doing. And but the problem is that the public and the general takeaway is that it was VR.
Right.
And so when they see that these layoffs are happening, they're like, "Oh, VR is failing." No, no. Meta's got a lot of crap that they is underneath their umbrella, and Meta hasn't had a lot of successes unless they have bought successes. And so I was reading here, there were like what it says here. What was I had it right here. So it's so some of these losses they said have been like WhatsApp.
Yep.
Like they bought WhatsApp and Instagram. They're like, fine. They're like, those are all under the Facebook thing. But then all the different things that they have spent money on. And was it here? So they said their cryptocurrency that they were planning to get into, Lasso, which was Meta's ambitious attempt to outdo TikTok. They had projects like Shops, which was an ambitious plan to turn Instagram into an e-commerce giant. They had podcast plans, Facebook Portal, and a Meta smartwatch to compete with the Apple Watch. All of these have failed.
Yeah.
And they've had and they go on to list many more things that are all underneath the Meta umbrella. And they said the problem that they've had is that Meta, and this is a Zuckerberg problem, right? He says, like he goes on there say, like, I made a mistake and that's my fault. But it's not so much his VR investments because I think those are still gonna pay off for him, and I think those are still successes. Like, the Quest brand is doing very well. It's the problem what they were saying, and they've had people that were, hired on and have since left or are still in there and being unnamed, is that Meta hired tons of people for all of these initiatives they were doing, and they all failed, and then people just floated in the company aimless, or they were
Mhm.
just kinda put onto other projects. The bloat that they have is because they didn't lay off the people from the failed projects. They just kind of kept them.
Yeah.
Like, they kinda ran the business badly, which doesn't I don't think is a fair reflection on, like, how their VR side is doing. I mean, it's
No.
not a runaway success, we know that, but he's been very upfront with the fact that there's a lot of money that has gone in and way more that they're gonna go in to lay the groundwork for VR. Someone has to do the heavy lifting. It takes a Zuckerberg, it takes a Musk, to get us to Mars. Like in this like capitalist society that we live in, it's gonna take some guy who doesn't really answer to a lot of people, who just is gonna write checks to get it done. Because if it's always has to make dollars and cents, things don't get done.
Yeah, no, I don't want to underplay what happened. I mean, 11,000 people lost their jobs, but I mean, the whole focus of every article I've read, minus the few that have actually did counter news, was that like Meta lays off 11,000 employees slash VR is failing. And like you said, it's not 11,000 employees who are working on Horizons. It's 11,000 employees across a variety of um of apps and everything else that just didn't work out. Like I said, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. There's just like I said, a ton of bloat. So while it did obviously affect some VR, I mean, it's not Facebook lays off like 90% of their workforce that are working on their metaverse. So it's very easy for the press to jump on the hate via Zuck bandwagon, and I get it. I don't love Zuck. I back you in regards to what he's doing for VR, and what he's done for VR for the last 3 years has been amazing. But he's not infallible by any stretch. He's definitely made mistakes. Um, so yeah, so I mean, like I said, it sucks to lose your job. My heart goes out to those who did lose their job. But this isn't a VR is failing headline. It's just that's what people are kind of latching onto, and that's not the case at all.
And that's the conversation that I wanted to have, right? I mean, of course, it sucks to get laid off, and I've seen both sides of it. I've seen people who are like, you could have some sympathy from people that are talking shit. And I've heard people say, well, a lot of those guys who were just saying, oh, you need to learn to code, and weren't giving a lot of sympathy to people that were laid off over the last few years. I feel like at the end of the day, these are human beings, and losing your job, especially like these big out of nowhere cuts like that. And a lot of these jobs are quite specialized, you
Mhm.
know like if that it's in an industry that's growing, but again, it's just and these people are unlikely to, if they want to stay in that industry, find jobs that were probably paying like Meta. Because I'm sure Meta pays too much, Like, I mean, I'm sure that I've heard some of the salaries that they throw around for some of these jobs, and it's not necessarily where the market's at,
Yeah.
you know? Um, so I wouldn't say, I never want to say that someone's necessarily getting overpaid unless they're like a hockey player, or an some actors, but I don't know.
Look
It's a
at
shitty.
you, Sandra Bullock. I don't know.
Wow.
I have no idea why I pulled that name. I actually really enjoy Sandra Bullock.
Well,
I don't know.
bullshit that we haven't had a proper Speed 3. Come on, Keanu.
Because Speed 2 was so amazing.
We don't talk about Speed 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I kind of summed up my points in regards to this being a, not to say a non-news story, but an overly negative VR story in regards to these
It's the
layoffs.
new that's how, it's the news, and to make Zuck look bad. I mean, Zuck doesn't need help to look bad, but I do feel like it's easy sometimes to point fingers and blame guys like Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and such when you're looking at these people that are like very, very vision driven, super wealthy, um, and usually a little tone deaf to other aspects. And I've seen people say like maybe Zuck needs to not be, like king shit over at Meta. Like he's CEO and everything else. Like he is like king
Yeah.
of Meta. I don't know exactly what titles he carries in total, but maybe he needs a few more no people. But at the same time, it's like I don't really want him to have no people. I mean, it's kind of like some of the reasons that we've got Quest 2s and Quest Pros is because he's just saying yes to
Yeah.
everything VR.
No, I
I
mean,
mean,
I love the Quest 2 or the Quest 2 or Quest Pro on paper. I think the Quest Pro is a fantastic headset for what they tried to do. I just think it didn't matter what Facebook said in regards to who it was for and what it was used for. It's still like, man, this is shitty for gaming. Like, don't buy a Quest 2 for gaming. This is fucking awful. Like all these headlines just like fuck, stay away from this fucking thing. It's cool, but fuck, like, it's fucking blah.
how
And
many F words did you just throw into
a
those two
bunch.
sentences?
A bunch.
Wow.
I may have been having a drink or two here. Show to Dave Station.
Is that what
But
happens? Is that
maybe
what happens?
apparently I got mouthy. But no, I just think like I totally support the Quest Pro rather. Um, is an amazing headset for what it was doing. It's just for some reason, despite Facebook being like, it's not for you, it's not for anybody. This is purely a tech demo for like corporations. Everyone was still like, "Meh, give me a Quest Pro. I gotta play games, Demio. Meh." And it's funny how that works out. How I still see negative press about like, don't buy a Quest Pro. Yeah, like that's basically what Facebook told you to do before they even released the headset. They were like, "Don't buy this," and then when it comes out, everyone's like, don't buy this. Facebook's lying to you. This isn't for gaming at all." And Facebook's like, or Meta is just like, "Yeah, but we didn't say it was for gaming." But no one. It's like everyone ignored Facebook or Meta just telling them over and over and over again, like, "This isn't for you. This isn't for the common man. This isn't for gaming." And
I still
then,
feel like your average, like the majority of users were like knew they were buying. I think there was, again, we're talking a lot of early adopters and VR enthusiasts. I feel like a lot of them knew exactly what they were buying, and so it is what it is. Like they're not worried, but there is definitely still those people who were just like had the money, gotta have the best shit. New Quest, yep. Oh, what? This isn't as good a gaming machine as my old Quest. It's like, well, shit. Um, I don't know. I feel like those people that are like, man, it doesn't game as well. You didn't read the fine print. You didn't even read the big print. I find it more interesting just listening to now that the craze has died off a little bit, and all the VR influencers have gotten all the clicks they can out of it. Now I feel like people are starting to go, okay, uh, it hurts my head. It's not comfortable. no matter
Yeah.
how long I wear it. I'm like, "Really? Even on the Pro device, Meta can't put a head strap on there?"
They
That
shouldn't have called it the Quest Pro, in my personal opinion. They should have kept it, honestly, like Cambria or something, whatever,
I
just
agree,
because
I agree.
it
They
hurts
kept
the
a high
brand.
end They should have kept a high-end
Yeah, I
VR,
mean,
a business
call
line.
or called it Quest Business or even something like that. But calling it
Yeah.
Quest Pro does kind of imply it is for gamers, like it is the pro version of a headset, when it really isn't. It isn't. So I mean, yeah, I do think they did. They should
Even
have
if
named
they
it
even if they'd gone the extra step and called it the Quest Professional version,
for
Quest Pro,
sure. Yeah, I
just
agree.
because Pro, we think PS we think PS4 Pro. We think like it started to be kind of like adopted by the tech industry to mean just like the point 0.5 upgrades on things.
Yeah,
What are your, like a Galaxy S 22 Pro
right.
instead of professional, because I think that's really what they meant. It's like
Yeah,
key word being the professional, not just like an upgrade. But like, it's uncomfortable, and some people are saying, well, what are other complaints? Oh, the battery life on the controllers is weird. Like
controllers. There's
its
been
charge is
Wi-Fi. There's
dead.
been
Its charge is
Wi-Fi
dead.
issues with it connecting to Wi-Fi like
Yeah.
intermittently. There's been a bunch of like, I mean, early tech bullshit. But it's there. Um, I've got such an amazing segue, Chris. I love shutting out my segues now because it ruins them. I really
Yeah,
take
really
joy.
wrecks
I,
the segue
I
if you go
really,
like
I
if you're like,
really,
"Segue!"
but I really enjoy doing that for some reason. It's the sick man in me. Hey, Chris, do you want to know about another headset that will blow your mind?
That would if we were still doing the pre-recorded episodes, that's would have been like, "Hey, Chris, yeah. You know what headset'll blow your mind?" It almost looks like a Quest Pro in that picture.
It's so close. It's so close. It's freaking sweet. For those that don't know, and you
On
really
the inside
should,
joke, yeah.
Palmer Luckey, who you guys, if you don't know who Palmer Luckey is, he's the guy that basically made the Oculus Quest or the Oculus Rift headset, the Oculus DK1. And he was the founder of Oculus and has since moved on because Facebook fired him for a bunch of shenanigans and tomfoolery once again. But regardless, Palmer Luckey basically came out and said, "Hey guys, I've designed a headset that will kill you if you die in VR." And of course, the
Is
news
that
just
the real headset, by the way? Do we know? Like, is
yeah,
that literally like
yeah.
li like a
I
cow
can
in the
tell
meat
you,
processing plant?
I can tell you all about this thing. I've read all about this thing. I love
That's
this story.
that's
I
twisted.
love this story. So for those that don't know, and even myself, I'm not a I know of Sword Art Online. I actually haven't read or watched the stuff. I'm actually going to like right away. I'm going to download what I can for this franchise. But Sword Art Online, I can't
Can
say it.
barely get the word out, but he knows it.
Sword Art Online is a one of those early VR novels. I believe it was a novel first. Where basically the creator of this VR universe, Sword Art Online, sold these headsets and then surprised all its users by being like, "Hey, by the way, guys, if you die in my game, you die in VR." And so all of a sudden the stakes were quite raised. And in the novel, my understanding is that it actually he somehow included like a microwave like emitter in the headset that no one ever discovered. So when it was sold to the masses, no one knew this thing was there. And obviously the creator's like crazy and was like, haha, now you die. So Palmer Luckey, being the VR fan that he is, decided now that he works at the home defense, I can't remember who he works for. It's a defense contractor for like governments. Decided in his spare time to design a headset that yes, if the right red screen is displayed, he couldn't do the microwave thing because the technology doesn't exist. So he basically put three explosives, which you can see in the front of the headset. He put three explosives in there, which, if you die in whatever game you choose, will boom explode your head.
Are the
And
explosives are not rods?
he said explosives in
Hey, that
the
works.
so whether they shoot down into your head and explode, I don't know. It doesn't matter. I mean, Palmer
Hey,
Luckey basically invented not only the first VR mass VR headset, but now invented the first realistic like you could die in this headset. And I love this story. It's so mental. I fucking love it.
I just what I love about it, it's like immersiveness. It's like, Fuck you, be haptics. And like, and that other company, was it Arc or whatever, or Tesla, whatever the heck, the Arc, I think it was, that's doing like the electrified suit that like makes you feel pain in VR. It's like pussies. Pussies. He's like, oh, my arm doesn't work in VR. Yeah, yeah. You're dead. So this is how you deal with the kid issue, Ryan. That comes standard with the Quest 3. And if you click on the thing saying that you're over 13 and you're not, it has a little age, like it has a voice analyzer. He's like, "Hey guys."
That'd be
What
sweet, but
what
unfortunately, I'm not condoning kid murder on this podcast. I won't
I'm
do
not I'm
that.
no, I'm just saying. Be like, "What happened to Billy? He left our
I mean,
party."
I guess it's kind of kid suicide if you want to talk about it that way. They did buy the headset. I mean, their
Read the
parents,
fine print.
right? But and I mean, just to kind of the final cap on the story is the fact that Palmer Luckey keeps this in his office as a reminder of like where tech could go and the dangers of technology. And I fucking love that. So I just love this story. I love the fact that this, I mean, I consider him a genius, was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to actually build a headset. And wherever he was working was like, that's cool. Use our explosives. That's fine. And made this fucking sweet ass, shouldn't exist in reality, like only in movies headset that I absolutely fucking love.
It's just like this like twisted combination of a saw trap and like some like twisted Black Mirror episode. And I mean, yet again, the future or the present becoming eerily similar to Black Mirror. On a side note, I was actually listening. The creator of Black Mirror was asked if there would be any future episodes, future seasons, and he said, like, yes. He's like, but they're actually having a hard time right now, kind of trying to figure out like where to go from here. This is him. He said this for real because the present is so fucked up. Like he's like that's like things are changing so fast and going in such weird places that things that only a couple seasons ago, were like, oh, the future. It's like, no, that's a real thing. You know, like it's like, oh, being, your accessibility to various things in your real life being tied to your social credit score. It's like, yeah, China wants to do that. It's a real thing. I don't know if you ever saw the episode where like your social credit score, like your likes and your
Oh,
overall social. It had what's her face
what,
was in there,
Bryce
Howard,
Dallas Howard?
Bryce
Yeah, I
Dallas
actually
Howard.
did see that one.
Hmm. It's like, yeah, we're creepy close to that now.
I would be so poor in that universe. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not sure.
Dislike,
I'm
dislike, dislike.
yeah. But
He's
yeah,
rude to everybody.
I just thoroughly enjoyed this story. I thought it was wonderful. I thought just even Palmer Luckey like dipping his toe back into VR. I just thought this is such a cool way to do it. And I hope to one day touch that headset,
Yeah.
lick it.
No. Yeah. Wear it. Wear it.
No, 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 no. I'm too much of a coward for that.
Can you imagine though, just watching a squad, like two opposing teams in like Rainbow Six or like say Firewall 3, and everyone on both teams is wearing that headset? You just like
Poof.
see people like peeking out of rooms. You go, no.
There'd be a lot of lens fogging because of all the sweating people are doing.
Just and if you disconnect, you die too.
So, I mean, I've got one more story I want to quickly talk about. I know you had one more you want to talk about. I'll quickly touch on mine. I was actually all excited for it. Then I actually looked it up and I was like, oh, this is lame. But BMW introduced VR into into their car, the BMW M2 or whatever the heck it is. I'm not a car guy. I don't care. So I looked it up. I was like, what does this mean? All they did, which unfortunately, they basically built like a course and then put VR, like basically you can drive the BMW like in VR, and they basically mixed reality the whole course. So you can drive the BMW in real life, and you're driving it in VR on a mixed reality course. So all you see is VR, but you're driving a real car. Does that make sense? Did I explain that relatively okay?
Yep.
And you can collect coins and dodge obstacles and everything else. So it's like you're playing a game but driving a BMW, which is awesome. if you're like rich and they'll let you behind the wheel, because I guarantee you they're not letting anybody behind that wheel that can't drive the shit of this thing like a professional. So, but to me, I like the idea that like 5 or 10 years from now, that tech will be at like my local go kart track. And I'll be playing go karts in like mixed reality and just be like, woo, Mario Karting the shit of this thing and launching my red shells and having guys spin out and everything else. That's was my takeaway. Was like, well, that'll be cool when I finally see that when I'm poor in 10 years.
You're almost already there. Like I have the Mario Kart Switch experience where it's like the augmented reality where I
The
drive
little
the
cart,
whole
I have
track
that
to my
too.
house. Yeah.
Yeah,
Really? We should
yeah, I
totally
do.
try that together one of these days because I
When you
didn't know anyone else had a car.
in December when you come over.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Well, I did see some people set that up actually at a go-kart track, and the one problem that it does have is very limited reach. It's like 25 feet, right?
Oh, it's so
I
short. The
maxed
range
out
is
my own house.
terrible.
Yeah.
I can't go to my kitchen without it cutting out. Like it's not ideal.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways,
But it is endlessly entertaining. One time we had a set up around my house, and my buddy was there, one of my best friends, and he had his 2 daughters there, and they were driving around the house there, and the track went around the island of the kitchen, and he was driving this time, and he was the only one looking at the screen, and so I got behind the island, and I dropped down, and I dropped my pants, and he had to go through the archway of Balsakian, and it was a scary tunnel for him to drive through, but
so I've changed my mind. You're not allowed to bring that over December now.
and I remember him turning around the corner into the island, just breaking down in hysterics because, of course, like the way the cameras on those little cars, everything looks massive, looks like a monster movie. So I can only imagine what it looked like attacking him when he came around that corner. Anyways, you said I had another topic, but I don't know what else that was.
The Apple headset?
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't. I
Well,
mean,
I mean, it's worth mentioning again. We keep talking about Apple.
I've been
Apple's
keeping track
coming.
of chat too.
Apple's
I have
coming.
three. I have three things from chat that I actually can bring up there that
Okay,
some guys brought up that I haven't been keeping track, guys. I haven't been keeping track.
I've been reading too. Yeah, look, the Apple thing. I hate Apple. Everybody knows that. I think Apple's just garbage. I think they're just overhyped and out of date. They're always years behind Samsung. Just I don't even get me started with Apple. So I don't really care too much about them getting into the VR market, other than Apple getting into the VR market, like really getting into the VR market, is kind of a validation to the VR market. It's just it seems like Apple's really, really just dipping their toe in the water with this next Apple headset, like this first Apple headset. It's going after that Quest professional market and then some. Like it's going to be very elitist. I think it's going to be. It's almost like an R&D project that they're going to sell.
Yeah, I kind of get that same impression as well. We don't know, obviously, but with the accounts coming out, it does very sound like it's going to be high end. But as far as support for apps and what those apps will be and like who they're tailored to, it does sound very not for us. They're not FUBU. They're not for us by us. They're just along for the ride. I guess I'm not sure. For us by us, not us, not you. NY, not you. I don't know.
Okay,
I
shut
can't
up.
finish the joke.
But like somebody mentioned there, triangulator. He makes up a good point. Apple seems like they're very AR focused, but again, this goes into the whole Quest Pro because they're also pushed augmented reality quite heavily. Um, uh,
FUNY. For us, not you. Apple.
well, we'll see. Anyways, my point was is that Apple has mentioned, like, I guess confirmed, almost confirmed officially, that it's coming in 2023, and it's their planned initial production is less than 1 million units. I just feel like with them saying that right off the hop, it just gives you clear indication, even though it just validates what we had heard from them because they've been very clear about it. You know
Right.
that this is not for everyone. This is going to be expensive. It's going to be like $3,000. That's they keep saying that. So we'll see. I just it's just weird because a lot of people are going to look at the Apple headset and then like there's a lot of people out there that are going to look at what Apple's doing in VR and then judge whether VR is where they want it to be. That's my
Hmm.
concern. You know what I mean? Just
Well, I
because
mean,
it's Apple. It's Apple. Like especially for most there's gonna be people in chat that are gonna get really offended right now, but I feel like most of the people who buy Apple products are people who just go with the wave of tech. Like they just want they're not really tech savvy. Because if you're really paying attention and you really care about what you're buying and what it can do, probably aren't gonna buy an Apple device. And so the masses are just like, "Arr, get the best shit." Like Bose. Bose makes shitty ass speakers, but they have marketed themselves so well. You don't believe me? Go read about
I
it tonight.
like my Bose speaker.
But go Google it tonight. You'll
I
realize,
know,
like,
I know.
you go into like the audio file like sites when I was buying my home theater system. It's like, wow, Bose is like trash. Like it's garbage shit, but they market it really, really
This
well.
episode sponsored by Beats by Dre.
Oh, Beats is bad too.
I know they're trash.
Don't
That's
get
why I
me
actually said
started.
them.
Garbage. It's garbage. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, Apple, I agree. If they're gonna basically price themselves out of it, like, like you said, the Quest Pro, I was debating on getting. I was just like, I was like, it's like I was so morbidly curious to see just how it would improve my gaming experience, but the price chased me off. Now to sit there and have Apple double that price and offer, we don't know what they're offering yet, but it just seems like that's just out of the realm of possibility. So okay, like you do you, Apple, but goodbye. I mean, at that point in time, I'm looking at a Vario headset, and I'd rather have a Vario headset if we're talking like seriously talking numbers here.
I'm
Huh.
really excited to see what Apple will do for VR. I have no interest in having none.
Not now, not with their first headset, unless obviously all the rumors are wrong and shit. But as of right now, it definitely sounds like it's just not marketed towards people who actually like VR.
But, like, we've talked about this in previous episodes, and so I won't go on about it, but the big thing that Apple will probably bring is that the one thing they do well, and I'll give them this, is their form and factor. Like, they make things that just they feel good, they work
For
well,
three
they're
thousand
easy.
bucks, it's gonna be sleek as fuck.
Yeah, well, I mean, you would think the Pro would have a strap that would, the Quest Pro would have a strap that was comfortable, you'd think.
Shh,
But I'm
shh.
just saying, Apple's probably going to set the bar for what it's like, at least for those business focused devices, what the expectation is for that though. Because there's like, I mean, they shelved the whole thing for like a year or two because it wasn't thin enough and comfortable enough. Like they said that publicly.
I just
So it's like they're that Apple headset's just gonna be like just slipping into a warm bath. It's just gonna be like "Boop."
I don't want to like talk about this very long. I really don't. But I just kind of like for $3,000, what you can get from an Apple headset and what you get from like a fucking Valve Index and a $2,000 PC. Like it's what's the conversation we're having here? Like what's the comparison? Because I
That
just
is gonna be the conversation though, right?
right?
It's like, what are you getting?
Yeah.
And that will be the conversation. It'll when Apple comes out with that price point, it will be it'll be the, "Whoa, I got a Quest 3 for this much money."
Right. All
Um,
right. Fuck Apple. I'm done with Apple. Are you done with Apple?
I'm done with Apple.
All right, so I didn't record the users who mentioned these things. I do apologize to you guys, but I'm not good at this yet. But one dude mentioned way early on about is there an AIM 2 controller coming for the PSVR 2? As far as we know, we don't know jack shit yet. I've seen patents for an AIM 2 type controller. Whether those patents actually bear fruit, who fucking knows? But I do fully expect there to be gun stocks for the PSVR 2, which I think will honestly kind of trump what the aim controller will do anyways. So that's the best I got. There is a possibility of an aim 2 happening, but realistically, I think it'll be gun stocks. Chris, what do you think?
I don't want a PSVR aim 2.
There you
Love
go.
my
So
I love my aim, but VR is past Duck Hunt, We don't need a sharpshooter. We don't need
fuck,
we do
aggressive,
you remember the
aggressive.
sharpshooter? That was Sega's, wasn't it? Yeah, and or the Super Scope.
Super
Yeah.
scope, yeah.
Yeah, we don't I mean, I loved my aim. I did. I absolutely it was awesome, even though it pissed me off with the, uh, the tracking in VR, but I have an aim stock for PC, and that ability to play, like, most of your gun games now in VR, the expectation, like, Sony people, they haven't had this most for the most part, haven't had the ability, that wonderful experience of playing, like, proper two-handed shooters, you know? that once you get into a game where even Pop 1, which is a really dumbed down version of it, you still have the pull it out, kick it in, and load the chamber. And it's like, I don't want to give that up. Like, I mean, I understand that there could be some cool games where, for example, like Farpoint, where the whole game was designed around having the aim control and it was just like reload, or whatever. And they could do some really cool things with it. But for the most part, you know, I want to be able to like two-hand it. I want to reload. I want to be able to grab a sidearm. I want to be able to just drop the gun if I need to and climb. Like the aim control. It's one of the reasons that Pop One never came to PSVR, is because it's like everyone's like, we want our aim controllers. It's not going to work with this game. Like, because then if they don't make you climb, then what are the balancing issues? I'm just saying that as much as I like the aim control, it's very arcade. And what I want from Sony is I would love. I'm torn on that. There's some really good companies out there that are doing aim stocks, but I would like to see. It would be nice if Sony officially licensed an aim stock that worked really well, like for their device.
Just like the 3D rudder. Next one question here is they wanted our thoughts on Iron Man VR. We talked about it last episode actually, but Iron Man VR for the Quest 2 specifically, or yeah, for the Quest 2. I think we both agreed that we liked it and it played better than the PSVR version. The visuals are, as far as I'm concerned, the visuals are dumbed down, but not enough to actually hurt the game. And having full 360 tracking and just that freedom of flight made it the better version to play, in my opinion.
We're talking Iron Man here, right?
Yeah, they asked early on.
I wasn't really done with the aim discussion.
Oh, then sorry. We're wrapping this thing up here.
No,
I mean,
well,
you made your points clear. I don't like the game controller. Man, give me fucking. I
hey.
heard you. I heard you.
Oh,
Everyone fucking heard you.
You're gonna start something. No, love okay. Perfect example. Then I'll be done with the aim discussion.
Fine, go.
Firewall Ultra. Firewall Zero. It's not even 0 hour, and it's just Firewall Ultra, right?
Yeah.
You can see from the trailers that the whole point. One of the biggest upgrades is that they're going to go two-handed.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that very few people are going to play Ultra and go, I miss my aim control, because I think they're going to feel so badass when they're pulling that out and they're like ejecting the mag and slamming that in, and they're able to just like quickly like switch to their sidearm, and they're not the immersiveness that they're going to gain from that. Yeah, they're going to miss that locked in, that feeling like you've got a solid gun in your hand. But I feel like you give up a lot more than you gain. And I hear some people saying like, oh, give me both, or, different. Yeah, but you got to keep in mind, like, is it worth it for Sony?
Yeah.
Like, to make a peripheral, the fact that we got the aim at all was a miracle. I think it was crazy. Like, we got a shooter specific gun, and it worked great, and it made it a case for existing because of the analog sticks that we really wanted for some shooters. But there are so many shooters we did not get because we were locked to an aim controller.
It'd be a nice test,
So
actually.
many.
I haven't gone back to it yet. I've been meaning to for a while. I'm down a Quest controller right now, so I'm kind of like, my PC and Quest game is kind of messed up. But for those that don't know, Alvo actually fully released their two-handed reloading and stuff. So even on PSVR, you can actually do full-on manual reloads now. I haven't tested out myself, but I think in regards to what Chris is talking about, from going to what the move controllers were, which basically like press X to reload, to doing a full reload thing, I think if you're actually at all curious about how you feel about this, I think Alvo would be a good testing ground as far as going from press X to reload to actually having to do a full reach down, grab the clip, pull the clip. Might be a good thing to check out. I think the game's like $15 now too. So a little shout out to Alvo, I guess. But
we'll see. I mean, this almost seems like it should be an episode in itself, because you see, you
Write it
started
down.
there. You see Meow Meow's going there. Like, why does Chris hate the aim controller? Fuck you, Ryan.
Yeah, right. Because Chris is a hater. He doesn't like the aim controller. He's hated it from the beginning. Thinks it's a stupid peripheral.
Well, Dennis
Doesn't like
is
it.
right there. If Corix had aim controller support, I don't know.
Yeah, right. Exactly that. All right, so I think I'm done. We get it. You don't like the game controller.
Oh,
I think there's
shut up. No, it's it's just
All right, I'm cutting you off. I mean, look, he doesn't hate the game controller. He just hates all the people who like it.
You suck so much.
like I said, I mean, there's been patents, there's been rumors of a name controller type sequel coming out in regards to the PSVR 2. Whether that happens, we have no idea. If I were a betting man, I would say that's not going to happen just because of what Chris has said in regards to the fact that the Sense controllers are a big deal. To sit there and add an aim, the aim peripheral worked for PSVR because the aim peripheral did what the moves couldn't. And now that that's no longer an issue with the Sense controllers, I don't see there being money in aim controller as much as I do in there being in stocks.
That
And
and
that's from a
that is
guy
the
who actually
problem.
does like the
Yeah.
aim controller.
Oh, shut up.
All
I
right,
think
so
you're just right. I mean, like, just my firewall example is a perfect example of how Sony's gonna look at this, because there are gonna be people that are gonna go, "I don't care about manual reloads. I just want to be immersed." Like, I wanna hold that. I wanna feel like I'm holding a
no, I'm
gun,
there. I'm totally in that
right?
category.
And so there's some people that are gonna be like, "No, I don't care. Like, that's how I wanna play firewall." Then you're gonna have a huge group of people like, "No, like, I want a manual reload. I wanna be able to quickly jump to a sidearm, throw grenades. I don't wanna button push a grenade throw." Like, I arguably, I feel like you actually give up more immersion with an aim controller, depending on the game. It's just
Sniper Elite, baby, Sniper Elite. Woo!
Sniper Elite was awesome with an aim controller, but, throwing grenades with a button push, I was kinda like, "Real
Woo!
aren't we past Doom VFR? Might as well just throw the grenade
No!
from my shoulder."
Woo! Woo!
Anyway, maybe it's gotta be an episode, man. Um,
Write it down. I mean, as soon as we have more news, I'd happily talk about this again and totally just bury you and get some more fans on this channel. Um,
Now you know what? I don't know. I actually think it's gonna be one of the biggest conversation points between PSVR enthusiasts, like those of us who have, like, bled and sweat PSVR since 2016, and played, cheerleaded, like, does it have aim support? Does it have aim support? It's gonna be a big problem with PSVR 2 because no, you're not probably gonna get an aim, at least not soon. And the push is going to be for full tracking. That's push. That's going to be the push. It's full tracking, two handed. They're just not. I don't see them going there. I mean, VRS, which is the stock that I use. I mean, they already have pro attachments for the Quest Pro controllers, so they're going to be on PSVR 2 like that. So they're going to have probably day one launch ready peripheral for a gun stock. It becomes a balancing issue too, and that's one of the biggest problems as well. Hey, it's a valid point. For competitive shooters, it's like they need to, I don't know, like if some people have a stock and they're auto reloading, or sorry, some people have an aim controller and they're auto reloading versus like half the people that are two handing it and manual
I
reloading.
know, I
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I
Well, it's a
know,
balancing issue, Ryan.
I know. Okay, I think we're gonna. I want to put a pin in this conversation because I do think that we can just rehash this and re-expand later, assuming there's news upon this topic. But as of right now, I think we both agree that the aim two doesn't seem like a likely option.
I can see it now. Virtual Boys episode 83. Chris hates the PSVR aim controller.
Oh, for sure, 100%. And I will totally just yeah. Everyone, slam him, slam him. All right, so quickly, you have like 30 seconds. Iron Man VR for Quest or PSVR, which is better to play?
Quest.
Easy. I mean, it's just that control thing again, man. It just makes it better. There is a downgrade in visuals, like I said, but having that freedom of the Quest just makes it so much better.
You know what? It's if you haven't played if you haven't played the PSVR version of Iron Man for a while, which I hadn't for like years, literally, and then you jump into the Quest version, it's kind of like, oh, it looks pretty much the same. Like
Oh yeah, yeah,
until you do the side by side, because they've
yeah.
changed, like you said, they've changed the color scheme to make it like darker, more, like
Yep.
the sun looks like it's setting a little bit more, and it takes away some of the details so it doesn't jump out at
They
you.
also refine the controls. The controls are not
But
just like
that's the
copy.
big
Yeah,
thing. I'm just saying the visuals are the only downgrade. That's why
yeah,
I'm talking about visuals specifically.
yep.
And they've done a good job at kind of hiding some of that. Now, if you start going back and forth, then the big drop, I think it really comes down to, do you want clearer visuals with the higher res display, or do you want blurrier visuals but more detail? And it's a crapshoot. That's a little bit of this and that, right? The big thing, like you said, is tracking. And it's, for me, it's not the cable, it's the tracking. It's that 360-degree rotation of being able to just sit in your living room and fly around and not even worry about it.
I'm telling you, if you go back and
Feels
play
pretty cool.
PSVR, you'll be like, it's that and the tracking. Going back and forth, man. It was painful to go to PSVR. It was honestly like painful just to go from like the ease of Quest to PSVR. Anyways, we both
Hang
tell
on.
you
I need to address a comment here, but we both say Quest is the better version from a playing standpoint, very much a gameplay standpoint.
totally. But
Um,
the graphics aren't a downgrade enough to sit there and say like the PSVR version is the better to play. Like the gameplay on the Quest makes the Quest version the better version to play.
but do you see how many people are continuing to talk about this aim controller thing? That's what I'm talking about. But I want
So
to reference what Brandon said there. He said, we have a thrustmaster for driving, a HOTAS for flying, and I have all of those things
so
because
do I.
I have a problem.
So do I.
Um, but here's the issue though, is that let's use the thrustmaster as an example. There are a lot of driving games that do not support the thrustmaster. Same with the flying games, like the HOTAS. There's a lot of
Uh-huh.
games that do not support, so that becomes a peripheral support issue. Now, he brings up a good point. Do I believe a third party could bring out an aim controller that like it's just a controller for the PSVR 2 that the headset can track? I don't know if they can do that. Like we don't know if they're going to be able to go in behind and have the headset track something that's not the PlayStation controllers. But if they could, that's a possibility. Okay, let's just pretend that that's a possibility. Then the problem becomes support. And this becomes a developer issue. It's like, okay, if not everybody has one, if only a small minority of people playing are even going to buy that peripheral because it's some third party thing, then why support it, right?
Right.
Which is why it was so ballsy when Sony brought out the AIM officially, right? Because it was like this is a controller that we are supporting, we are licensing. We're packing it in with the AIM or with the PSVR in some bundles. They really pushed it on developers to support the AIM. Very few companies have ever done that. That's why I joke about like the Super Scope. In fact, it's actually one of the most successful peripherals probably ever.
The aim with a super scope.
The AIM, the AIM,
Okay.
the AIM. Because I think the Super Scope and the Sharpshooter, which was Sega's for the Genesis, like, you can count on like one or two hands how many games came out for that, right?
Like 7.
Or like the Power Glove.
So apparently we should have did this episode was the aim controller episode. We should have just did that
We
instead of
should have.
all our just ramshackle mishmash nothing.
It's coming
The,
back, boys. It's coming back. You just stockpile all your comments. Everybody in chat there, hit the like button, by the way. About aim controllers, we're totally gonna have an aim controller episode now. Dun, dun,
it's
dun.
now it's gonna happen for sure. The one last point I wanted to mention was dude mentioned TF VR, and yeah,
Team Fortress.
contractors got Team Fortress in VR because contractors just apparently just apes everything under the sun and just gets away with it. So I gotta dive back into that game, but between Halo, Team Fortress, Unreal, like everything under the sun, it's crazy. But yeah, that was that point earlier on. So Team Fortress is now in, which I actually didn't even care for Team Fortress when I played.
I
that
got
briefly.
it, Ryan. Next episode, I'm reading chat here. It's not just going to be an aim controller episode. We are going to have a peripherals in VR episode. Because I see a lot
Well,
of
I
Logitech
mean,
people
we
there.
can go back. We actually did that once, like way early on.
Yeah.
Did you see my hashtag for you?
Fuck you. I
There we
didn't.
go.
I didn't, but I can imagine.
I'll repost it just because it's there. It'll be the newest one. You'll see it in 30 seconds, Chris. But we are winding this thing. I think we're winding this thing down, right? We can.
You know what I'd be more concerned about if you're like gonna be typing shit around. I saw that the description underneath this episode is still the last episode.
What?
I see time indexes there saying PSVR 2 talk begins. It accidentally cut the first few minutes of the episode. Blah blah blah.
Oh well, I
Get
mean,
your shit together. You're busy hashtagging.
you know what's funny, Chris? This is my shit together. This is the best you get.
I thought it was. Yeah.
So fuck you, Chris.
Screw you, Justin. Oh man, I hate all of you.
I changed the description. Oh, I got it. It's trending, baby. It's trending in our chat.
Yeah. Justin writes it, and you're like, "Oh, it's viral."
Look, of course, as far as I'm concerned, that's like 10% of our chat right now is retweeting this or is remessaging. So we're good. Guys, I'm gonna wrap this up here. Thank you so much for joining our chat. Thank you so much for coming along for this little ride of ours. Like I said, it's every Thursday at this time. That's our plan, so you know where to find us. And yeah, I mean, we're kind of always looking for things to talk about. This is kind of a loose episode, but if you have something you think we should address, let us know in chat. If we can build an episode around it, we'll happily do so. And we'll even shout you out for giving us the idea because, we're idiots and we need all the help we can get.
Well, Justin, we got to have you on an episode here too.
Yeah, we can reminisce about what was that stupid
Circle jerks.
No, yeah, but I was never a part of that. No,
what's show that never happened. Which if we don't give no backstory to that, people in chat are gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
Right? I guess so. Right? No, what was that stupid PSVR game? I whomped you and Just Incredible multiple times in Megalith.
Megalith. It was.
Oh man, you can still fight if you want to amuse yourselves. It amuses me. I beat the fuck out of Chris and Just Incredible every single round in the game of Megalith. It was just adorable. I even found they were live streaming one game, and I just happened to see the live streaming, hopped on board, and just started. They had won the game. I managed to actually pull them back from the edge of victory and still whooped them. They're so bad at that game. It was hilarious.
We don't. Yeah, it's the only game that Ryan's ever been good at. So we got to give him.
Oh, I was so good at it though. It was fucking retarded.
Before we end off here, guys, again, thank you so much for tuning in. A lot of you have stuck around the whole time. It's awesome. I love the live aspect of this. I'm glad we started doing this. It's been really, really fun, guys. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. And Rob, the Suckatronic 5000. I really feel like your porn peripherals, you need to keep out of chat.
I love Wonder Rob. He's such an absolute dick in chat sometimes, but he still sticks with us, and I really appreciate that.
I have played with Rob in real life. He's a dick in real life too.
That makes sense. That math checks out.
We love you. Anyways, guys, next Thursday, same bat time, same bat channel. The AIM episode. Maybe.
It's too soon. Don't know. It's too soon.
It's probably too soon. The Suckatronic 5000.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. Is when there's no
peripheral that Sony needs?
Yeah, 3D Rudder 2. Let's do this.
Oh yeah, Justin remembers that. He remembers the beating. He's gone to counseling for that, I think.
You must have. It was an absolute whooping. I'm so glad that was like caught on YouTube forever. So good. Yeah, guys, chat, thank you so much. Obviously, Salvador, once again, thank you for the super chat. We super appreciate that as well. And everybody else, like I said, next week we'll come up with a more focused topic. There was nothing that stood out this week, so it was kind of loosey goosey. Next week, something more focused. Or
this was focused,
sort of, but it
was focused on the VR industry, right?
I know, kind of, sort of. But I enjoy it. You got some things off my chest, so I feel better now. It's like therapy. This is like my therapy.
Rob, I love you. Thanks for stopping by, and everyone else in chat. Thanks for participating in chat. That's a big thing. Love it. Don't forget, guys, if you want to listen to this on everywhere tomorrow, and don't forget to share the podcast everywheres that you want. Now that the podcast is sitting on this channel, we're kind of doing a soft reboot on it, so. If you want to shout from the rooftops, it's good times. We love it.
Oh, Triangular, you motherfucker!
I love how he
comes Holy shit!
With the $9.99 though, it's like nope, not $10. Fuck you. Not quite $10, guys.
What are you trying to sell us here, Triangular? What are you trying to sell us? Awesome, man.
It's like we don't want to say 10. But then you reverse it, it's like, no, not $10.
I get that. We have to earn that. We have to earn that penny.
Cent,
we haven't got there yet.
Cent, that's for me. You get $9.99.
Triangulator, thank you so much. Salvador, thank you so much. And to the rest of you who watched us and stuck through this, thank you all so much. Oh, and patrons. Of course, the patrons too. Thank you as well.
Yeah, Justin, we are Thursday. This is what we're sticking with.
Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. This is our time. Our time.
This is we gotta dodge the game cast. Jeez.
Just for
Guys,
now. Mwahaha.
we are out. Thank you so much. We'll see you
Later,
next Thursday.
all.